Welcome to CabChat, episode 279. We're getting towards the episode 280. Very quickly getting towards episode 300, Tom.
Who knows? This could be the big three.
Yeah, and those out there that doubted that we was the longest running taxi podcast in the world. I know I keep banging on about it, and if someone hadn't questioned it, I wouldn't have kept banging on about it. But if you doubt it, put it into Google or any search engine you want yourself or any AI, and it will tell you exactly the same, that we are the longest running taxi podcast in the world. And while we're on the subject, it's still the case that the most of you that watch and listen are not subscribed to the podcast. So please, please, please hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification so that you're notified of any new videos that we release. And talking of videos, we're in April now. And both me and you have got a very exciting video coming up that's going to be released on the 25th of April, I believe it is, isn't it?
Well, I'm hoping we can go a week earlier. I did drop you a message.
Don't say that to me. Oh, no. Don't,
yeah, if you can.
Relaunch my YouTube channel, seeing as I haven't put a video out for so bloody long.
Well, I'm having external pressures to sort of bring it forward a bit. But if we can, a week forward on the 18th. But
18th,
yeah.
I don't think that'll be a problem. I'll get
it
going.
It shouldn't be too difficult to edit because it is a bit, there's less jobs involved, especially on my edit. Anyway,
yeah. I had an extra job than you, and I had more interesting jobs as well. But so look out for that. It's a day when both me and Tom went to the airport and worked at the same time, with the idea of comparing our days, just to show that no two drivers' days are the same. And it might lead on to future videos that we're going to do as well together, where we compare our working days. I think I'm going to come into town and work the same shift that Tom does. Bearing in mind, I haven't worked those hours for a long time. So he's going to know what he's doing, and I'm not.
We could also do a day of just ranking up. I did that before.
Yeah, we'll
just working on ranks.
Yeah.
Again, just to see how they vary and whatever ones.
Yeah.
But yesterday, I somehow dropped off. I mean, bearing in mind, there's not much work about at the moment, but yesterday I dropped off at King's Cross about 3 times, then joined the rank about 3 times. It's just weird how some days you don't go near a certain area, and other days you just can't get away from that area. It's weird, the randomness of the job.
I know. Really. It's like last year I didn't go to Stonehenge and Bath. I think I went there once all year, and I think I've been there 6 times in the last 3 weeks.
Wow.
It's mad. It gets to the point where, you're driving around and you don't use the sat-nav at all to get down there or around the city or to go between places, and you're sort of thinking, I sort of know my way around here almost as well as I know my way around London. Although I don't know all the street names, I do know it quite well now.
It's weird how it clicks. Like I found that when I did Silverstone a couple of years ago, turned up there, and Frank, who runs it all, was showing us around. They had a little map printed, and I was like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. And you look at all the cars and all the big grandstands moving about, and you're like, no way, how am I going to learn all this? And then midway through day 2, you're picking up people that go, can you take us to the British Racing Drivers Club, please? And you're like, yep. And that thing you do in town where you're on the line and you go, right, if I go this way, it's going to be longer. Or if I crack a U-turn and go the other way, it's going to be short. I was instinctually doing that around Silverstone, and you're like, so weird how your brain just maps it, and you're just like, I got this. It's so cool.
I know. It's strange. It really is strange. Even going between Bath and Castle Combe, because I like to come back via Castle Combe and give them, a little bit of the Cotswolds on the way back. And, just going between there, I know various different ways now to go there. And I don't even bother putting the sat-nav on. I was driving there yesterday and I thought, I didn't even put the sat-nav on to get here today. And it's strange. It really is strange. But
what are we talking about today then, Jamie? Come on.
What are we going to talk about today? You've asked me while I haven't got the list up on my screen.
I'll go ahead then. Some of the stuff we didn't be able to get to talk about last week, because as always, we ramble on a bit. So we were talking about TfL's new stealth cameras that everyone seems really worried about for whatever reason. You mentioned a topic we could probably bring up today, which is accident management companies. We didn't get onto your beef with the Highways Agency. News with the Rap Aid emergency bandages. Private hire and taxi monthly. Posed or a hint that there might be a private hire cap in London. This is quite big stuff. LEVC, slight change of leadership, and Labour have a very contentious idea to encourage electric vehicle take-up.
Yes. We'll get onto that later. And then, of course, your funeral for the streets. Are we having a funeral for the streets this week?
We are having a funeral for the roads, yeah.
A funeral for the roads this week. Anyway, on to my rant. So, I'm going to ask a question. Is there anyone at the Highways Agency with just an ounce of competency? Because I was on my way home, talking of Stonehenge and Bath, from a very long day doing a tour of Stonehenge and Bath. And it was the day when they decided to put in Operation Brock on the M20, which is very contentious locally. And I'll get onto that in a moment. But so I was coming down the A2 and all the gantry signs were saying M20 closed from junction 8 to junction 9. So I've come down the A2 onto the M2, come off at junction 3, down Bluebell Hill, turned left on to the M20, thinking, right, I'll come off at junction 7 and then swing round onto Ashford Road and go home. And lo and behold, even the gantry sign, and I do have it on video, still saying on the M20 that the M20 was closed between junctions 8 and 9, when in effect it was closed at junction 7. So they was causing absolute chaos, yeah? So I've sat in the traffic because I've got nowhere to go now, and I've come off at junction 7, and this is the total incompetence and the lack of communication between different agencies. One of the only alternative routes for me to get home, going via Bearsted Road and then down onto the Ashford Road, had a 4-way contraflow operating on it, which then added an hour onto my journey to do 9 miles, yeah, in the middle of the country where there's no traffic normally, yeah. Now, just as an aside note, yeah, I have just typed into Google how many times Operation Brock has been used or utilised while it's actually been in operation, yeah. And Google has come back saying that Operation Brock was deployed during the summer, getaway acting to hold freight during busy weekends during July and August 2023. And then 2024, it was used 9 times. And it says, now, this is a complete lie. Yeah? The Operation Brock was deployed the head of Easter, April in 2025, and it was between 2019 and 2025, Operation Brock was deployed 10 times, yeah, or put into place 10 times. That's a lie, because it was actually put in over 6 times in 2025 and wasn't used, yeah. Now, it was apparently used once during 2025, during the summer of 2025, according to a BBC Freedom of Information request. But the amount of times it's actually put in, which is every single school holiday, causes chaos and misery for people using the M20 or people that live in the area for 12 days a year for it to be used once.
Wow.
For it to actually be deployed once. How much do you actually think it costs for them to deploy it, to actually put the cones out? Any ideas?
I don't know. I think we've covered this before, haven't we? Just that, you know, rather than them
£1,000 for them to put the cones out, and for every day that it's in place, it costs £35,000. Over £3 million per year.
Wow.
For it to be used very, very rarely. Very rarely. I mean, I personally, in all the times I've been going backwards and forwards along the M20, I've never actually seen it being actually utilised while it's been in place in the last 2 or 3 years. So that's £3 million a year. So over the last 3 years, that's cost £9 million.
Mental. Absolutely mental.
Be used. But the chaos and the traffic it causes. I mean, last night on the M20, there was trucks parked up on the hard shoulder where they've run out of driving hours. So they're causing the issue that they're trying to prevent, in effect. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. They need to find some alternative, start using Manston Airport again. Put them back at Manston Airport if it happens again. Find somewhere else to put them. Don't just queue them up on the motorway. There's no facilities for them if they're stacked up on the motorway, on the M20. There's nothing there for them. Manston Airport still isn't being used. They're still not in operation. Put them on the runway. At least you can put facilities there. And they can, you can put toilet facilities there and things like that. Whereas if you leave them on the side of the road, the inevitable is going to happen. They're going to be pissing and shitting on the hard shoulder, basically, which isn't ideal, So it's an absolutely ridiculous situation. And there's someone's earning an absolute fortune out of this.
Yeah.
Absolute fortune. I wish that I'd gone into renting cones out, as I said before, after the pandemic, because I think I would have been retired by now. Because
it's just ridiculous, all these kind of stuff that is either on standby or, like I said in a previous episode, I think they'd be better off if it was a higher fee, but just for an emergency call out, rather than just always being on standby.
Yeah, that's right. If it happens, put it in.
Similar thing with, sorry to interrupt there, but the whilst on topic of it, but the Hammersmith Bridge and the Uber boats. I'm sure you heard about that.
No.
Oh, mate. Not many people might know this, but I think it might have been on Taxi Point or somewhere like that. But basically, when Hammersmith Bridge went out and they were thinking, well, we can't get people across here, they actually, I don't know why, because obviously pedestrians can still go across it. I don't know if there was a point when pedestrians couldn't, or possibly in place of the bus service. But basically, they had Uber boat contracted to be able to take people across Hammersmith Bridge. They contracted them for a period of time, and they were never used. I have to find it.
It's just madness, isn't it? It's just absolute madness. I mean, if it only takes an evening to put it into place, right, then if it happens, put it in when it happens. Yeah? If the lorries start stacking up, you start piling them up on the hard shoulder, put it in. Get the guys there, put it in. Yeah? And then once it alleviates, take it away. Yeah? Don't just think, we're going to put it in just in case, and we're going to cause misery and chaos for 2 days for all these people that live around here. And, we're going to have, 40-ton trucks trundling up and down sort of country lanes because we're going to put some cones out, and then we're going to have to take them all away. The M20 was closed both ways.
Wasn't it?
London bound and coast bound. All night last night from like 8 o'clock. Absolutely ridiculous. How they can get it so wrong that they're putting up on the gantry signs that it's closed between junctions 8 and 9, when in effect it was closed between junctions 7 and 9. Have they got someone that's dyslexic working at the Highways Agency? And the other thing is, there are 2 lanes coming off at junction 7, one to turn left and one to enter the roundabout and turn right. But no. We've got to close it down into 1 lane and then open it back up into 2 lanes just to cause even more chaos. Why they can't just leave it that the 2 lanes go off as they would normally go off of the M20 and filter to the left or the right? No, we've got to squeeze everything down into a bottleneck of 1 lane. It just seems as though there is every effort put in to cause as much congestion as possible, and to cause people's lives more and more misery if they actually drive.
It's just a double entendre, really, isn't it? Because it's not only does it cost more for the taxpayer because of this, but as you say, it's the misery element of it. It just seems to be that these companies have worked out, well, we got to put this on for health and safety. We can't have that because of health and safety. And they're just adding and stacking on all these extras, these add-ons, these upsells. Come back to my New York example. I know I've sort of banged on about it, but I didn't see a single closure or temporary traffic light system in place. All the traffic lights ran as normal. If there was a repair, there was blokes there with the truck, whatever the thing was, just the right amount of coneage around the hole or whatever it was they're repairing, and everyone just went round it and got on with it with their normal signals. There was police officers that were doing all the traffic signals, and lo and behold, most trucks that were doing the repairs were gone by the afternoon.
Yeah.
And they didn't leave anything behind. It was all back to normal.
Well, we used to have that situation in the UK, didn't we, where there was common sense. But it seems that the UK seems to have been drained of all common sense of recent years. And there's no joined up thinking, no common sense. And it just seems, I mean, there's those skits that go around on TikTok, we're going to do roadworks in 3 months' time. So when do we put the cones out? Do we put them out the day before, a week before, or now? We put them out now. Yes, correct answer. It just seems to be. And the amount of times you drive down a road and there's cones, a lane coned off. Yeah, and it's been coned off for 2 or 3 days, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, there's not, if there was something wrong with that section of tarmac or something, you could understand. And you're driving past and you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And there's nobody working there.
Or it's just a stack of facilities vans parked there.
Yeah.
If the vans can park there, then surely I could drive there.
Well, we was driving along Ashford Road the other week. Me and Denise was going into Maidstone, and there was like a contraflow traffic white light system in operation. They was working on a communications box that was on the pavement, but it was not just on the pavement. There's a grass verge between the road and the pavement, and also between the pavement and the person's garden. Yeah? And it's way over in front of their garden. So it's like 30 foot away from the road. Yeah. And they're working on that. Yeah. So do you know what the contraflow was for?
Van to park in the road.
Because they had their van parked in the road. Yeah. But there was a side turning just by the side of it where they could have parked their van and not caused the chaos on the main A20, because the Ashford Road is the main A20. They could have parked their van around the corner, but no. We've ordered these traffic lights and we've paid for them, so we're going to use them. And just to, so that there's something there, we're going to park our van there and we're going to put the traffic lights out and cause chaos. Come on, people, get a fucking brain, will you?
So I want to just highlight people on this Hammersmith Bridge one. This goes back, obviously, to 2019 when Hammersmith Bridge shut. It was closed to motorists in April 2019. This is the whole Uber boat thing. So an article I've got here, January 2022, BBC, which is £80,000 spent every 4 weeks on the unused Thames Uber boat. And this was because it says here, pedestrians and cyclists were unable to cross Hammersmith Bridge for 11 months from August 2020 because of cracks. Basically, Uber boat by Thames Clipper won the contract and was supposed to start its service in the spring, but this was pushed back to August due to additional time being needed. The bridge then opened in July to pedestrians and cyclists. So it was estimated £400,000 was spent on an Uber boat that never carried any pedestrians or cyclists across Hammersmith Bridge. Wild.
That's just incompetence, isn't it? That really is incompetence, isn't it?
I'm going to say, if you'd have just put an emergency bill on it of twice the price and then they pulled them in, then, but, nice little...
Nice little one. Someone obviously got a nice little backhander for that one, didn't they? Yes. Did I just say that? Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
So moving onwards, we more TfL stuff. Let's talk about these stealth cameras that have come in. What's your thoughts on these, Jamie?
Well, I've seen a couple of videos about them, and they seem to be, more updated enforcement cameras, of which we seem to have an abundance of them in London now. I mean, it's been reported that London's got more cameras than any other city in the world. A lot of them seem to be traffic enforcement cameras of one thing or another. And these new cameras seem to be able to cover multiple lanes of traffic in both directions. How that works, I don't quite know. They're saying it's going to use AI to determine which car's speeding and which one isn't. Well, we know how reliable AI can be at times.
Well, they say they're 4D imaging radar. They're being trialed. They don't use, like you say, detect speed and do not use road markings. They do not flash, because the way that a typical speed camera works is that you have 2 photos of the car in comparison to the lines on the road. It's just simple that you can see how far that car has traveled across those 2 photographs. I mean, I don't get why this is such big news, and everyone's going mental about it because, like, oh, it doesn't flash, and you're like, well,
I think it's because it can catch you not wearing your seatbelt, because it can photograph you and determine.
Does it though?
I don't think it does, to be honest with you. I
think that's,
or have a clear view of you in the car to do that. They're saying it can catch you using your phone. If you're using your phone in your hand, then you deserve to be caught. Unfortunately, I've said this before. Invest in a cradle or a holder for your phone so that you haven't got to pick it up or anything like that. Any professional driver, you can't call yourself a professional driver if you're still picking your phone up, unfortunately. That's my view. The cheapest phone holder's £5. You can probably get them, go on Temu or somewhere like that, or AliExpress. You could probably get, a bundle deal for £5 and get 2 of them, or whatever, and give 1 to your mate. So, there shouldn't be any excuse for holding your phone anymore.
No, and the fact that they don't flash is like, what use is it?
Well,
You've already been caught.
You've been caught. So what you're going to say? Oh, well, I didn't know I was caught because it didn't flash. But well, if it flashes and you've been caught, you've been caught. If it doesn't flash, there's already cameras around that can detect your speed that do not flash anyway. In the daytime, a lot of them don't flash anyway because they've got a clear image of you going across the line. It's over night time that a lot of them flash, or when the light's a little bit dark, a lot of them flash. Not all of them flash all of the time.
But I'd probably prefer that. Like, touch wood, this is probably going to jinx it now. I've never had any points on my license ever, right?
Yeah, but you've been flashed.
Yeah, this is what I mean. But so if you've been flashed, right, I'm now going home thinking like, oh my God, you've got to think about it. And I think that dread and fear that something's coming, is it coming, is far worse than just it arrives in your doorstep. You're like, oh, okay. So if any of it's probably doing us a favour to not think about it and go, oh, did I set it off? Because you just won't know.
Exactly. It's like going back to my rant last, about the Operation Brock being put in. So as you come towards Junction 7, there's the gantry sign saying 40 mile an hour. And people are going past that at like 10, 20 miles. You couldn't go any faster than 20 mile an hour at the time because we were sitting in standstill traffic, really. And as the traffic's moving off, some of them are doing 20 mile an hour. The camera on the gantry was flashing. Anyone doing over 10 mile an hour was flashing at them going over 10 mile an hour, right? So they're all going to be going home panicking, going, oh, have I got a ticket? Have I got a ticket? Have I got a ticket? The gantry's clearly showing 40 mile an hour, yeah? So even if it did flash them and it caught them doing 20 mile an hour, they're not going to get a ticket because the gantry sign was saying 40 mile an hour and I've got it on video that it was saying 40 mile an hour. But they're going to panic about it. Oh, I've just been flashed. Whereas if it didn't flash, they're not going to worry about it. It's not going to cause any anxiety or anything. So what is the problem with these new cameras? Everyone's saying, oh, TfL are bastards for putting these new cameras in and I'm really scared. And why? Yeah. If you're not in an offence, it's not going to matter, is it? It's not going to be a problem. So why is everyone raging about these new cameras? Well, I don't know, really. Unless they're going to reduce the parameters down on them to being zero tolerance, which I don't think they can do because of the discrepancies in speedos in vehicles. A speedo's allowed to be, speedometer's allowed to be 10% inaccurate. So that's why you normally got 10% tolerance on the speed camera prosecuting you. So if it's 20 mile an hour, you're not going to get a ticket unless you're doing over 22, 23 mile an hour.
Yeah. A lot of traffic cops will say like, well, 1 mile an hour over is speeding or whatever, speed limit's 20. But like you say, that's just pretty much impossible to ever do that because like what happens to the boy racer who's changed the size of the wheels on his car or whatever,
exactly.
It's not standardized.
Most people that have got a ticket in London, it's been 24 miles per hour. They've got it for a 20 mile an hour zone, which proves the theory is 2 miles an hour plus 1. You're getting a bit of tolerance on it. So you should still have the tolerance on these new cameras. I don't believe they're going down to zero tolerance, which I don't think they could do legally anyway. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I can't be 100% sure. But with the tolerance on speedometers in cars, I don't think they could take them down to 0 tolerance on the camera. So,
yeah. 20 miles. I think the overall sentiment here is that I think everyone's in agreement that it's just the 20 mile an hour that is pretty pedantic, really. That's it. You know,
and the funny thing is, most people that get into the cab are complaining about a 20 mile an hour speed limit. They're saying it's ridiculous. Most people that live in London are saying it's ridiculous. The only people that seem to think it's a good idea are politicians who seem to be totally out of touch with the people that have, the people they're supposed to be representing, and cyclists, because it means they can now overtake cars. Yeah. Which is what I'm getting more and more of nowadays. People on these electric cycles, zoom, coming past me.
Yeah, I've always wondered that. It's like, if it's a 2 metre pass for me to go past a cyclist, what's the pass for them to come past me?
Well, you know what really gets me with cyclists is like you swing out and you give them the 1.5 metres required or stated now to overtake them, and then you come back in and you get stuck in a bit of traffic and they come up the side of you, and they're scraping past the side of your vehicle, and you think, hang on, surely this works both ways. And if there's a 20 mile an hour speed limit for vehicles, I thought if you were cycling, you were supposed to abide by the highway code.
Yeah, in the same way that you're not allowed to turn right on a no right. Like, you'll see it under signs like now. It will say no right turn, and it will then underneath it say accept cyclists. But you see them just happily do it, and you think, oh.
Well, and stopping at red lights and things like that, which in your video, you've counted them, haven't you? There's another one going to come through a red light. There's another one.
I don't even count or make a point of it now because it's such a prominent thing. I mean, in many ways, I do agree when cyclists do jump some red lights. Like, the ones where you can see them anticipate it. They see it's they're about to turn green. And if it's not got the little cycle ones,
I haven't got a problem with that.
Jump it all day long. It's just the in-between. And
the thing I have a major problem with is pedestrian crossings. When pedestrians are crossing the road and the cyclist is still trying to go through the pedestrians. Listen, cyclists, don't try telling me that none of you tried doing it, because I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And when I've been crossing on a pedestrian crossing, I've had cyclists fly across the front of me. Been very tempted to kick them off their bike, and I've restrained. When did cyclists gain priority over pedestrians? The pedestrians should have priority over everybody, really, especially when they're crossing the road at a crossing, and it's giving them the right of way to cross the road. Cyclists should stop at a pedestrian crossing.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, especially with most of them being electric and pedal assisted now, there's less cost to stopping, unless of course you're on a line bike, in which case you're taxed for stopping because it's paid per minute.
Paid per minute. And also, don't forget that these electric cycles are a lot heavier and will hurt a pedestrian a lot more than a pedal cycle will.
Well, and also, I'll bring it up whilst we've gone on this weird little sideways tangent. You might have started spotting the new design of line bikes in town. They've got smaller wheels. They've got a lower step-through design, a little bit more lightweight. So the center of gravity, basically, they've already rolled some of these out in Denmark and some of the Scandinavian regions and such. But the area where the battery is on the main down tube of the line bike, when people were crashing on these bikes, was actually causing a phenomenon known as line bike leg. This is what was going around all the hospitals in London, where surgeons were looking, orthopedic surgeons were looking at all these breaks, and they're like, you crashed a motorbike or something. This is the sort of break we see when a motorbike lands on your leg. They're like, no, I was just on a line bike. And having really bad fractures because of the design of these bikes. They've upgraded the design. You'll probably see them out and about. But it still doesn't alleviate the problem that because of pay-per-minute cycling, it's about 20%. It costs about 20% more to hire these if you stop at every red light. That's why line bikers, cyclists always jump red lights. Who can blame them? You're getting charged for it.
Talking about the pay per minute, good news is, as from October, you're less likely to get run over by a pedicab because they will be going slower from October once they're licensed, because they'll be charging per minute. So the adverse effect happens there. Private hire cap in London. It seems that TfL are considering or discussing the private hire numbers in London. Seb Dance, if I can find the article again now.
I've got it here. Let's have a little looky. A recent session of the London Assembly Transport. This is from Taxi Point, by the way. Committee Deputy Mayor of London, Transport Committee Deputy Mayor of London, Seb Dance, made clear the current system renders local caps ineffective. Quote, the problem with the cap is that whilst you have the cross-border issue, cap is essentially meaningless.
And we've discussed this before on the show, haven't we, where we've talked about the number of diesel, brand new sort of 24, 25 plate diesel V-Class Mercedes working in and around London. And just as an example, going out to the airport the other day, I was watching all these V-Classes going backwards and forwards. I think out of about 40 or 50 of them, I actually spotted one with a TfL PHV Randall in the window. So that's 49 that are either licensed in other licensing areas or not licensed at all. Now, these were quite clearly PHV vehicles. They were not private vehicles. They were PHV vehicles transporting passengers, because you could see the amount of weight in the back of them where they were piled up with luggage in the back and obviously multiple passengers in them, and the sat-nav stuck to the windscreen, the obligatory in the private hire vehicle, isn't it? The sat-nav stuck to the windscreen, the phone. So, yeah, these are obviously all private hire vehicles. So out of about 40 or 50, one had a TfL PHV Randall in the window. So it's obviously a problem. And we've seen the problem with the Wolverhampton drivers working in London as well. Wolverhampton got more private hire vehicles per capita than any other licensing authority in the country. And the vast majority of their drivers do not work in Wolverhampton. So why are Wolverhampton licensing that many drivers? It's just a form of revenue for them now. That's all they're looking at. They're not actually thinking about licensing the safety of the travelling public, because the safety of the travelling public, where licensing private hire vehicles is concerned, has seemed to have gone out of the window completely, which was the whole aim of licensing private hire vehicles in the first place. Firstly, in 1976 with the government's Miscellaneous Provisions Act in the outer areas outside of London, and then in 2000 with the London Private Hire Act, where private hire vehicles were licensed in London. So it just begs the question, how safe are you in a private hire vehicle? Really?
Yeah, I mean, Transport for London Commissioner Andy Lord, he's also in this article, kind of sentiments that exactly. It says here it's become a real concern with regards to obviously safety and market fairness, and he warned that vehicles operating in London may not meet the same requirements as those licensed by TfL, standards relating to vehicle age, emissions, and driver vetting. Which, yeah, like you say, just completely just throws it all into misery, really.
But the good thing about this is that Transport for London are actually concerned about the issue and are looking into the issue, but their hands are tied because of the cross-border hiring thing. There is ways, even if the government will not allow a cap on private hire vehicles in London, there is ways of stemming the flow of private hire vehicles, new applicants. You can slow the whole process down so that some people get fed up and withdraw their application. And, it takes longer for people to actually get a license. The same as they used to do with the knowledge. If there was a lot of drivers out on the road, they could make it longer for you to do the knowledge. So it took longer for you to get your badge. So there is ways of sort of slowing the whole process down and sort of controlling the number to a certain extent.
Yeah, and I've always sort of believed that having like a driver cap of numbers would then would make it less of a kind of transient profession to be a private hire driver. Those that are in it are then sort of more respectful of it. It creates a higher standard of those drivers that are in it. I guess Uber and all the other platforms that operate will have a much more stable pricing structure, which arguably would mean much
increase.
The drivers have a much higher standard of living, but also quite competitive with taxis, rather than having to chop and change their prices to compete with us. If there was a standardized rate, if they knew this is our driver pool and our drivers are pretty comfortable with working at this kind of rate, that could be a real sort of force to reckon with London cabs, really. But yeah, like I say, nothing really can be done until cross-border hiring gets addressed.
Exactly. And that's something that's for government to do. TfL have no control over that. And until the government do sort out this cross-border hiring issue, which I believe the Department of Transport are looking into at the moment, nothing can be done about it. You know, as Seb Dance says, any cap that TfL, if they were to put a cap in and say, right, we're capping it at 100,000, drivers would just go and license elsewhere and still work in London. So you could still have 140, 150,000 private hire vehicles working in London, which is probably about the true figure at the moment, about 150,000 private hire vehicles actually working in London, with those that are licensed outside of London. Because I would assume, you know, just by my sort of straw poll of cars going up and down the M4 the other day, it's probably about a third more, you know, a third of private hire vehicles working in London are not licensed in London.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely wild. It'd be very interesting to know. I always sometimes do it when I get bored in traffic. You just look at how many vehicles are either a taxi or private hire. You know, obviously private hire will outnumber taxis by 5, 6 to 1 maybe. And then what's left? You've got delivery vehicles, and then there's only a very small amount of private vehicles. So you're just like all this traffic, all this congestion.
do you know what? I was going out to the airport Sunday morning. I was taking some passengers out to the airport Sunday morning. I did a tour from last Friday, and I was taking them out to the airport Sunday morning, and I was really proud because as I come down on the Talgarth Road and up towards the elevated section of the M4, all there was around me was taxis going to the airport, all black cabs heading towards Heathrow. Very few private hire vehicles around me. I had cabs in front of me, cabs behind me, cabs both sides of me. And it sort of reminded me of like 30 years ago when I'd be going out to the airport. And it was like, I looked around and I thought, that's a really good thing to see, you know?
Well, it's like when you're in the city of London or you're trundling down Oxford Street and it feels sort of nice. And you think, oh, isn't it amazing? We all work amongst each other and we all somehow get work. And then you get a job down to, say, Streatham or somewhere, and you try to get out of a side road and you're like, I'm on my own down here.
Yeah.
I could be ambushed.
Yeah, ambush. Oh, these private hire drivers are going to ambush me. And
Yeah.
oh,
No.
it's like the last stand of Custer, isn't it? Being surrounded by the Indians.
What we're going to move on to you mentioned it briefly last week. I don't know where we want to go with this, but accident management companies.
Well, it's just that they seem to be. Just a quick thing is that I'm not going to go too much into it because I don't want to get sued or anything like that. But a lot of people seem to be having issues with accident management companies at the moment, whereby not actually issues with the accident management company, but when you sign for an accident management company to deal with your claim, you're effectively signing a hire agreement for the hire of the replacement vehicle as well that you're taking from them. Now, what happens with the accident management company is they try to reclaim the higher costs of the replacement vehicle from the third party's insurance. Now, it's been claimed that, you know, these accident management companies try charging the third party's insurance anything from sort of £75 a day for the replacement taxi up to £300 a day. A lot of third-party insurance companies are now questioning the cost of these replacement vehicles. Now, if the accident management company cannot reclaim the cost of that hire vehicle from the third party's insurance, they're coming for you for it. Because you've basically signed that you're taking that vehicle under some sort of hire agreement.
Didn't realise that. Yeah.
They charge you the full amount, you know, what they're trying to, you know, some have been, the last one I heard of was £285 a day. Whether they're going to try to come after you for the £285 a day is questionable. But it's something to be aware of when you allow one of these accident management companies to deal with any claims you've got going through. I think sometimes it may, and I know it's a bit of a pain and a bit of a hard blow to suffer if you do have an accident and it's not your fault. Sometimes it may be better for you to put it through your own insurance and to go and hire a cab yourself and reclaim the higher costs yourself for the replacement cab. a lot of accident management companies that were in the taxi trade seem to have disappeared and pulled out of the market, because the rich pickings are no longer there anymore. So I just, I'm not going to start slagging accident management companies off because they have helped a lot of people out in the past. But all I'm saying is it's something to be aware of if you do allow accident management. Read the small print when you sign to allow them to deal with your claim.
I guess it's like any form of insurance, isn't it? There's going to be good and bad sides to it, where you got to look a little bit closer at the fine print. What does the insurance cover? Is it as good as, because most insurance products, it seems quite simple from the outset. It's like, oh, I pay for this and they'll cover XYZ. And then when you look deeper into it, it's go, well, we don't cover XYZ, or we do it up to this amount, or by the way, you're liable, or you've got to pay an excess. So as with anything, I guess it's just precaution of it. And you only learn this by hearing tales like that, because that's something I personally wasn't aware of. Obviously, it makes sense really that they do charge a lot of money, some of these places, because at the end of the day, it is an intermediary that is making money out of basically renting a cab. So they're going to have to put something on it. That's just how these companies work. But I didn't, to the degree that you said that if they can't reclaim the costs, how much of that is on you? It doesn't really bear thinking about. It's not a nice thing to think about if you've already been out of work through the accident and then you're having to pay out your own pocket for, your own vehicle, effectively.
Yeah. It's the way the accident management company earns their money, basically, is through the rental vehicle, plus the negotiations that, any bit they can earn off the top of the repair as well. So, it's how they earn their money. But
yeah, we're not saying it's a bad system, because at the end of the day, you need a cab. You've had a smash or whatever and you haven't got a cab, then that's the way of doing it. Caution on these sort of things, because at the end of the day, it is insurance.
And check what you're getting, basically. Yeah.
Okay, so another form of accident, hopefully not too bad, is the Rap Aid emergency repair bandages.
Yeah, do you carry one?
I haven't. I met the MD of Rap Aid at one of the dinners recently, Alexander Chivers, and he said, they're doing a further rollout, because obviously lots of cabs have got them. I don't know what the exact number is at the moment, but their rollout that they're wanting to do, I've just seen again on Taxi Point from our sort of little quick research here, is that the LEVC, London Electric Vehicle Company, has announced a new partnership with Rap Aid Emergency Bandages, which expands the availability of emergency trauma kits across the UK's taxi network. Under the agreement, more than 5,000 Rap Aid emergency bandage kits will be installed in new and approved TX taxis, supplied through LEVC's dealer network.
I think there was going to be any new taxis.
Well, maybe they're going to have to put them in the used ones then.
Yeah, I've got one. I've got it in the cab. Yeah, I've got it. I've had it in there for 2 years. Yeah. So, yeah, I haven't got stickers in the windows anymore because of the weddings and things like that. But I do carry it, and I have got it. And if I did see someone that was stabbed, I would stop and, use it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with these. We're a 24-hour service that we're always out and about. You very rarely see a policeman walking the streets now.
Well, the thing is, it's not, they're saying it can be used for stabs, but I mean, when you think about it effectively, any deep wound, it could be used on, if someone gets knocked over or something and they've got a cut, anything like that, it can be used to stem the flow of bleeding until the ambulance gets there. And a lot of times, a taxi would be closer than the ambulance would be.
Yeah, just looking now, obviously Rap Aid are, a charity that does this, so it is entirely a charitable endeavour that does this. Where there's a serious incident, the first responders are usually the general public. So criminal acts, or like you say, accidents on the street, it's just a great way to, simple use and stem the bleeding quite quickly.
Exactly, and I think it's a good idea, and I think, everyone should carry one, really. And I've got some ideas as to why they can distribute it, and I will get in touch with them about that. And,
Yep.
see what
And
we can do.
hopefully this us sort of sharing it on the podcast is our way of helping to distribute it as well, that people know about it and where to go really. So as that rollout comes out, I'm sure they're going to have a bit more of a targeted sort of campaign to it. I'm sure we'll be able to help out in whatever way we can.
I did do a little short video about it, actually, that's on my YouTube channel, a paid thing. So, yeah, and how you can contact them and everything else, their web address and all that. So, yeah, if you haven't seen it, go and find it.
So where are we going to go next then? What's the final topics to kind of slowly wrap this up then? I've got here, Jamie, it says that LEVC have a change in leadership.
It seems so, yeah. LEVC reshapes leadership as Geely strengthens oversight of UK electric taxi maker. I don't know what oversight actually means. So the London EV company, LEVC, has announced a restructuring of its UK leadership team, with Alex Nan stepping aside as chief executive and Tony Chaya appointed acting CEO as part of a wider strategic shift within parent group Geely. Now, this is on Taxi Point. The move sees Nan continuing his role as chairman while taking on broader responsibilities across Geely's international operations. The company said the change is intended to strengthen coordination between LEVC and Geely's global business units, as the group looks to scale its commercial electric mobility ambitions. So, yeah, it seems that they
That's
want
what it
to...
says on the tin.
Yeah, basically want to strengthen their mobility offerings. And obviously the previous CEO wasn't the man to do the job, and they've installed Tony Chaya as the man to do it.
They've had a few different CEOs over the time, haven't they? But I think it's maybe just more of a reflection of perhaps just the way the businesses move, in that, some CEOs last for a while. I guess LEVC is a bit of a dynamic company, really. If this is a case of merging Geely with LEVC, that might be a different, I guess, task to what a previous CEO might have had, which would have been just maybe day-to-day run-ins of LEVC. Don't really know. I can't really comment on it, but that would probably be my interpretation of that from what you've just read out.
But yeah, I mean, it's, for all those that are saying LEVC are going to fold and things like that, I mean, I don't think they would have been appointing a new CEO if they were intending on folding it up and closing it down.
And by the sounds of it, what this is doing, it's like it's going to be amalgamated more into Geely, which Geely is a huge company. And obviously they've had their successful electric car rollout, which I'm sure some of you have seen the electric. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a nice looking electric car.
I've driven it.
Yeah.
It drives really nice, yeah. It drives quite nice. Fully electric again, so not my cup of tea. I'm not fully... I don't think at this present time I would even... If I was in the market for a new car now, I would consider a fully electric car. A hybrid? Yes. A fully electric? No, definitely not.
Do you know where electric really does kind of win? Like, what's cool with electric?
City centres.
Yes, because you are incentivized for slowing down through regen braking.
Also, when you're sitting in traffic, and I've always said this, I'm not a great advocate for electric vehicles, but when you're sitting in traffic without the diesel engine vibrating or a petrol engine vibrating and the noise, it's really quite nice.
Yeah. It was one of the first things I found when I went back to driving a TX4. I think I just done it for a video, just for a skit. When I pulled over and I was doing it with Mark Monroe at the time, and I undone the window to speak with him, I'd already turned the radio down, because that's habitually what you do when you pick up a passenger on the street. If you listen to the radio, turn the radio down just so you can listen to him.
I wish I could turn the engine down.
Honestly, I was like, what? I can't. You're just used to silence. I guess you get used to it, don't you? But yeah, mad that I could actually ever work.
I can remember the exact words you said. I wish I could turn the engine down on this.
Okay. Final kind of point before we get onto Funeral of the Roads. This is another one you found, which is Labour have some sort of incentive for people to buy electric vehicles. What's going on here, Jamie?
Yeah, the Labour Party government has been told to give electric vehicles free parking and access to bus lanes in a desperate bid to boost the uptake of electric vehicle sales. So
can I ask, sorry, told by who, does it say?
I'm just getting onto that. It says Shell submitted evidence to MPs on how to better encourage drivers to buy electric vehicles. It's funny how a company that's heavily invested in petroleum products is encouraging people to buy electric vehicles.
Well, actually, if you go back in history, sorry, just to quickly butt in there, you go back through history, it was a big move for cars to go electric after the horse-drawn carriage, and there was actually a big opposition to people going petrol. And there's actually various documentaries on it, and I think there's one called Who Killed the Electric Car? And it's the idea that obviously petroleum companies, or they were in the market of oil, petrol, whatever, and then they had that to then sell, and of course combustion goes neatly with that, whereas electric, and you don't have the same kind of like product or need, in the same way that people need mortgages to buy houses. Mortgage was a product invented so you could buy a house. Petroleum was kind of invented, or at least not invented, but used for combustion engines, so it's maybe in their best interest. So now it's obviously flipping the other way, but yeah, very interesting. They want to go the other way, but
yeah, it says the oil giant urged the Labour Party government to introduce fresh perks and benefits which would help ensure the UK stays on track with its zero emissions vehicle mandate by encouraging the uptake of electric cars. So yeah, I really can't understand why they would want to do that, to be honest, but it also warned more needs to be done. The company suggested a range of incentives, including discounted tolls, free parking, and access to bus lanes. Well, if they give them access to bus lanes, you may as well just do away with bus lanes altogether, I think, because, think of it in London. Yeah, if every electric car was allowed to use a bus lane, there'd be no point in having a bus lane anymore, would there? Because they'd be the same as the lane by the side of the bus lane. The buses would be choked up, taxis wouldn't be able to get around. So there'd be no point in having any bus lanes anymore. So I think that's a stupid idea, Shell.
I don't get why they think people were that short-sighted, though. Like, it can't last forever. It's the same when people were buying Teslas, because Tesla are like, well, we'll give you free charging to the network. And to be fair, some of those rights are grandfathered in, to be fair.
Well, yeah. But
it just goes up and up. Sorry.
Americans also buy Teslas because they think it's an American-owned company. Who owns Tesla?
Mr. Musk?
No.
Is he not majority shareholder?
He owns a minority share in Tesla.
I didn't know, yeah.
Who do you think owns Tesla?
China.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Ding, 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 ding.
I mean, let's type it in. Let's just make sure before we make unsubstantiated claims, right?
But on any of these things, it's the same with electric cars being not charged the congestion charging zone. It's like, yeah, get electric, it's fine. What do? They bring in the congestion charging. You used to be able to get free charges at various places with electric cars. What do? You put the prices up. It's obvious. Jamie, what have you got for us?
Right, so how much of Tesla do you think Elon Musk owns? He is the CEO, yeah, and the largest individual shareholder of Tesla.
10%. Oh, not too far off, so I'm happy with that.
12% he actually owns, yeah. So,
and then it's obviously a lot of other venture that's in there as well, and breakdowns.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, it's not a fully, it's largely owned by Chinese companies, Chinese motor manufacturers. Funeral for the Roads before we finish. Funeral for the Roads this week.
Somber music, please. Right. This one isn't a road. I guess it is a road, but it's a funeral for Albert Bridge. Okay, maybe it's not dead yet, but, maybe. Albert, you shimmering ribbon of light, dressed up in bulbs that once softened the night, a Victorian dream on the Thames gentle bend, now close to the living, a crossing at end. Painted in pastels, so fragile, so fair, a soldier once told to step lightly with care. No marching in step, lest the structure might sway. Even the army was warned on its way. You carried us softly from Chelsea to South, a whisper of wheels, not a roar in the mouth. No buses would thunder, no lorries would crawl, just taxis and locals. you welcomed us all. A pro's little shortcut, a driver's delight. Slip left from the embankment, judge width just right. That narrow approach where the timid would stall, while cabbies slip through like it's nothing at all. Now silent your boards, no meter will tick, no knowledge applied for a sharp little flick. From Battersea Bridge to Chelsea Bridge, the pressure must grow as traffic reroutes in frustrated flow. Where once there was ease, now congestion expands, all force to the crossings that still take the strain. The quiet advantage you gave us is gone, replaced by the grind that just carries on. And like Hammersmith Bridge, elegant still, a structure preserved but removed from the wheel. Maintained as a relic, admired from afar, but useless to those who must drive. Follow the tar. So here lies Albert, not broken but barred, too delicate now for the work it once charred. A beautiful crossing, still shining above, but lost to drivers who once knew its love. Amen.
Wasn't that beautiful?
But we hope it comes back. Maybe it comes back from the dead. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, because the other bridges are not coping too well. Anyway, you've been listening to CabChat, episode 279. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed or followed, make sure you do, because we're getting very close to the not that we want to make money out of this, as we've said in the past. We just want it to pay for itself. We don't want to have to put our hands in our pockets to fork out for software and things like that to run the show. If it just pays for itself, we would be over the moon if it just paid.
I'm just going to put it out there, maybe episode 300, we could do like a 300th episode party. Maybe we'll go record it in person and have a bit of a party for it.
Yeah.
A Russell Harty.
Before, actually. I did I think it was a 24-hour stint on CabChat once before. Yeah. Did a 24-hour stint. Where we continuously for 24 hours. Yeah. I was flagging towards the end. It might be, I can't remember, but you know, it was all going to go out as a podcast and it didn't in the end. I think I've got still got all the recordings somewhere. I've got recordings of every single CabChat show we've ever done.
Bloody hell.
Right the way back to number 1 and all the specials and all of the demos and everything. I've got all of it. But yeah, make sure you subscribe. We'll have a party on episode 300, which will be in 21 weeks' time from now, roughly. That's if we put a show out every week. We've missed a couple of weeks here and there. I know the audio podcast went out a few weeks ago of one show, and then the video went out the following week. I'll explain why, just quickly before we go. I clicked a setting in Riverside to put captions on, and I thought it would just put the captions on the little short clips that it produces, and it didn't. It put the captions on the whole video, and we didn't really want the captions on the whole video. So I thought I'll just remove them. So I went into Riverside, and there wasn't a button to remove them. So then what I did was I downloaded both individual videos of me and Tom and started to put it all back together again manually, right? And then logged back into Riverside, about a week or so later, and lo and behold, they'd added a button to remove the captions. So I just removed the captions and uploaded it, and it was easy.
Oh, wow. A time you'll never get back.
Oh, no, tell me about it. But to be honest with you, I wanted to do it as an experiment, because if we we could go do live shows somewhere and we're going to use individual cameras, I'm going to do it as an experiment, because I've downloaded the individual files, just upload them to Riverside, see if it'll make a magic episode out of it. Because if it can do that and we use individual cameras for a live show somewhere on location, then we can just upload the individual footage into Riverside and it will do the episode. It'll just edit it for us without me having to go in and do it all manually. So, yeah, if you haven't subscribed after that little bit of a waffle on at the end of the show, then please do. I might even cut that out, actually. But yeah, please do. And subscribe.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Most definitely.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.